My goal here is simple. I want to convince you to launch your own personal website. That is it. Starting my personal website was one of the best decisions I have ever made. Back in 2016, I bought a domain, I set up a simple website, and I had no idea just how much it would change my life. That website directly landed me opportunities when I was a medical student and when I worked as a doctor. The personal website even played a role in helping me meet the person who eventually became my wife. Because of that website, I started this YouTube channel 8 years ago. And thanks to this YouTube channel and to you guys for watching the content and engaging with the content, I am now able to live my absolute dream life. I genuinely believe that no matter where you are in life, whether you are just starting out or you're aiming for a promotion in the corporate ladder or whatever, or you're dreaming of starting your own business, a personal website can completely change your career and your life. Hold up, wait a minute. A website costs time and money to set up and maintain. I can see how that might be useful if you've got a business, but I am just a corporate employee working at an accounting firm. Why the hell should I have a personal website? Yes, a personal website does cost a little bit of time and money, a few dollars a month, maybe a weekend or two to get it up and running. But here's the thing, over time, I am convinced that having a personal website is one of the best investments you can make in yourself and in particular your career. So Harry, if I could convince you that the time it takes to set up your website and maintain it and the small amount of money you're paying each month for your website, if I could show you that that's probably going to give you a massive return on your investment, would you then consider starting your own personal website? You know what? I'm open to hearing your perspective on this. I gotta tell you, I'm a pretty skeptical guy. I don't think you're going to be able to convince me. Maybe the personal website thing worked for you, but I'm just a lowly corporate employee and I don't think it's going to work for me, but I'm open to hearing your case. Fantastic, Harry. So the case I'm going to make for starting a personal website for you as a corporate employee or whoever else happens to be watching this video is that there are 3 levels to having a personal website. So let's start with level 1, the online CV. All right, Harry, so let's start with the question. Do you think it's important for you to have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile? Yeah, of course. I work in a corporate. Everyone's got a LinkedIn profile. It's how you get noticed by recruiters and potential employers. It's kind of like your digital resume. Exactly. But here's the thing. A personal website is sort of like your LinkedIn profile on steroids. You have complete control over how it looks, what it says, how you present yourself, and it kind of becomes your own personal corner of the internet. Okay, but I already have a LinkedIn profile. Why would I bother putting in the time and effort to build a personal website on top of my CV and my LinkedIn profile? That is a wonderful question. So the simple answer is that a personal website helps you stand out, whether you are applying for jobs or you're being headhunted by recruiters. Sure, your LinkedIn profile and your CV are important, but let's be honest, everyone has a decent LinkedIn profile and every single person has a polished CV, especially with AI being able to write people's LinkedIn profiles and to be able to write people's CVs. Relatively few people though have a personal website. So I've been thinking about switching jobs anyway, and to be honest, the market is super competitive right now. AI is taking over. I could use something to help me stand out in the job market. But firstly, how the hell is a website supposed to do that? And secondly, what would it need to have on it if I assume that it's even possible? That is a very good question, Harry. So let me flip it back to you for a second. So you've hired associates at work, right? Like juniors who work underneath you. What do you usually look for when you're reviewing applications or interviewing people? Oh, that's easy. So by the time I see the application, HR has already screened out the ones that don't meet the basic qualifications. So when I'm looking at the applications, I'm essentially looking for 2 things. Firstly, would I enjoy working with the person? And secondly, are they competent enough to handle the job without me having to handhold them every single step of the way? Right, and how do you figure that out from someone's CV or LinkedIn profile? Honestly, it's pretty tough. I try to get a sense of who they are, what they're like as a person, what they're interested in outside of work, but most of the time a CV or LinkedIn profile doesn't really give me that. Exactly. Now imagine one of these candidates happened to have a personal website. It is not just a copy and paste of their LinkedIn profile, but it's a nice website. It's got an about me page that's got some photos of them. Maybe there's some pictures and little text and stuff that shows what they get up to outside of work. Or maybe they've written a pretty detailed blog post about their experience transitioning from a Big 4 accounting firm to industry, sharing the lessons they learned along the way. Okay, fine, you're right. If I saw something like that, it would massively boost their chances of getting an interview. Plus, I'd have way more to talk about them during the interview. 100%, man. And here's the thing. So in my experience, I've hired over 30 people. I have literally seen thousands of applications, and the candidates with personal websites or any kind of online presence or personal brand, even if it's totally basic, those people are way more likely to get an interview compared to those people who are completely invisible online. And according to ChatGPT, the average person in the US applies for over 600 jobs in their lifetime. So even a tiny increase in your chances of getting hired could potentially make a huge difference over time. It's an investment that pays off. And given that it only costs a few dollars a month and a couple of weekends to set up a website, I think that's probably worth it. All right, that kind of makes sense. But does this only happen if I'm actively job hunting? Not at all. So even if you are not applying for jobs right now, having a personal website is like keeping a polished CV in your back pocket. It's like keeping your LinkedIn profile up to date just in case. Life, as you know, Harry, is somewhat unpredictable. You never know when a recruiter might reach out to you on LinkedIn or via your personal website. You never know when a former colleague that you used to work with hands your name to a hiring manager because they want you to join their firm, or just someone within your industry or within a different industry might stumble across your website and they might see the stuff on your website and think that you're a perfect fit for their team. So having a maintained personal website is sort of like having a maintained LinkedIn profile, and it keeps you ready for those sorts of moments. Okay, so let's say I agree with you. What sort of stuff would this level 1 website need to have? Okay, well, at level 1, your website doesn't actually need to be anything fancy. It basically just needs 3 pages. So an about page that has a short professional and maybe bit of personal bio. It's useful to have a resume or portfolio page, which is basically your glorified CV where you showcase your skills or your work, but you're not limited by the word count of like a 1-page CV or whatever the thing is. You can actually just present it in the way that you want. And it's useful to have a contact page where people can easily reach you. So whether that's an email address or a LinkedIn profile or Twitter or Instagram, whatever the thing might be. Now, obviously you can choose how much effort you want to put into curating this website. And just like if someone had a really well curated, really well thought out, detailed LinkedIn profile, that would help them stand out compared to a generic LinkedIn profile with not much information on it. If you take the time and effort to curate your personal website, add more stuff to it, all of that just gives employers and recruiters way more information and a stronger sense of who you actually are. Okay, so that was level 1, where a website is basically a glorified online CV. What's level 2? Harry, I'm so glad you asked. Level 2 is where your personal website becomes baby steps for building your personal brand. So tell me, Harry, you work in the corporate world. To what extent do you think it's important for you to have a personal brand? Oh, personal brand, that whole thing again. Mate, the partners at the accounting firm, they keep on banging on about this, like importance of building your personal brand. And to be honest, I kind of get the idea. They're saying that your personal brand is kind of like your professional reputation, especially in a world that's being completely disrupted by AI. People with personal brands are obviously going to stand out more than people without personal brands. They talk about how putting yourself out there online, writing stuff on LinkedIn and different social media platforms, giving talks, maybe even writing a book, all of that stuff helps you build your personal brand. And they talk about how a personal brand can help you land clients, which is kind of the main thing that these accounting firm partners are focused on. They're focused on landing clients. And so the people with strong personal brands, they're always writing on LinkedIn and writing articles and like going on TV and doing thought leadership content and even trying to do cringe YouTube videos. They're all hoping that the personal brand thing will help them land clients. Yeah, that sounds perfect. I mean, those are a lot of the benefits of building a personal brand. Have you considered building your own personal brand, Harry? Oh, yeah, I have considered it, but I just don't want to be one of those cringe people writing crap on LinkedIn. I don't want to post Instagram stories or like TikToks of me dancing. Like, oh, it's so cringe. Okay, Harry, firstly, no one's talking about you posting TikToks of you dancing. People talking about building a personal brand are talking about sharing your knowledge, sharing what you know online. How does that sound? Yeah, I know. It's just, anytime I think about putting myself out there and writing something on LinkedIn, I just feel this like massive internal resistance to doing the thing. And I've been, I've had it on my to-do list for ages. I keep on telling myself, I should really build that personal brand. I should really start posting on LinkedIn. It feels weird, man. Feels weird. Okay, that feeling of resistance that you are currently feeling to putting yourself out there online, let's just call it what it is. It is fear. You are afraid of putting yourself out there online. And I'm not judging, Harry. I used to be like this until I started my personal website back in 2016. I used to be terrified of putting myself out there online. I used to be terrified that if I posted something, my Facebook friends, back when Facebook was a thing, my Facebook friends are going to see it and they're going to think I'm cringe and they're going to be like, who's this guy? Like, what does he think he's doing? Like, get back in the barrel where you belong, you weirdo. But Harry, you know what I realized over time? It was just the fear talking. I was fundamentally afraid of what other people would think about me, and therefore I didn't put myself out there. I didn't want to stand out. The tallest poppy's the first to get cut down and all of that crap. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I feel. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah, I'm afraid of putting myself out there because I'm worried about what people will think. How the hell does a personal website help with that? Like, surely a personal website exacerbates those fears, right? It's kind of like public speaking. Most people do not enjoy putting themselves out there, and it is a muscle you have to build. And for most people, building it one small step at a time is a lot easier. When you have a personal website, no one needs to know that personal website exists. That personal website is your playground to be able to create your own about page, to put some pictures on it, to mess around with the layout, to maybe write a few blog posts over the course of however long it takes you to get comfortable, and no one needs to know it exists. That is the crucial thing. When I started my personal website, I did not tell anyone it existed. When I started my YouTube channel, I did not tell anyone it existed. I did not post about it on Facebook. I didn't share it on LinkedIn. I didn't talk about it on Instagram. I just did the thing myself privately for a while. And then I realized, this whole writing shit on the internet thing, it's actually not that bad. And then I took a blog post and I shared it with a few trusted friends, like the people who like really had my back. And they were like, oh man, this is quite interesting, this is quite good. I was like, oh, that's not too scary. And then like the next one, I shared it with a couple of more friends and they were like, oh, it's reasonable. Like 3 or 4 people read these blog posts, but it helped me get comfortable with the idea of online self-expression. And if I hadn't built that personal website initially and gotten those baby steps out of the way, a year and a half later, when I saw the opportunity to start a YouTube channel, I never would have taken it because it would have been fucking terrifying. It would have been so scary to put myself out there, but I had the experience of having a website first. Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is that if I want to build my personal brand, I obviously have to start putting myself out there, right? But I'm currently afraid of putting myself out there because I'm super worried about what people will think, which kind of sounds a bit weird to admit, but like, that is exactly what's happening. And you're saying that if I start a personal website, it's sort of like a private training ground where no one has to see it. It's almost like a private journal in a way, like no one actually has to see the thing until I feel comfortable to share it with a few people one small step at a time. Yes, exactly. It is not quite like a private journal because you want to write as if people are going to see it, and that gives you that little push. And you also want to actually build a website that is public so that then when you do decide to share it, there isn't this whole friction process associated with it. But essentially that's it. The website is a training grounds for your personal brand. It's baby steps to getting comfortable with the idea of personal self-expression. In fact, this book, Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, is a book I've been sharing on my YouTube channel for absolutely years. This is the book that I read back in late 2015, and this helped me get comfortable with the idea of personal self-expression. He describes it as a book about self-promotion for people who absolutely hate the idea of self-promotion. And reading this book helped me realize I could write stuff on my personal website and it was okay sharing what I'd learned. I was just a medical student at the time, but I'd done a few things. I was like trying to build this like university admissions company. And so I just started writing a few blog posts, sharing what I was learning along the way. And that is what made me comfortable with personal self-expression. And so I owe a massive debt of gratitude to Austin Kleon for writing this amazing book. It's like super quick as well. It's like, there's loads of cartoons and stuff, so like it's not that hard to read. But that is another massive reason why having a personal website is useful, even if you have no followers. Even if very few people see it, it will help you get comfortable with putting yourself out there, and putting yourself out there is exactly what you need to stand out in any kind of career that you're now doing, especially in a world that's being dominated by robots and AI. All right, so you're saying level 1 is basically where my website is my online glorified personal CV, and level 2 is where my website basically becomes a training ground for personal self-expression to help me get comfortable with putting myself out there. What about level 3? Fantastic, Harry. I'm so glad you asked. Level 3 is where the real magic happens, and that is where your website becomes a luck magnet. With a level 3 website, the more you put yourself out there, your ideas, your insights, and your experiences, the more you increase your surface area for luck. This is Personal Brand Building 101. By creating and sharing valuable content that is useful for a small number of people, you give people a chance to find you and a chance to connect with you and potentially open doors to opportunities that you didn't even know existed. Okay, but how does that actually work? Like, people don't randomly stumble across websites, do they? Yeah, you're right. It's not totally random. So in theory, it might be possible for some people to find the stuff that you write. Let's say you write blog posts about your experiences in accounting or whatever. It might theoretically be possible for them to find it on search engines, but it's pretty unlikely because search engine optimization is a whole other game. In reality, there are 2 broad ways in which people find your stuff. So number 1 is you share it yourself on some kind of social platform like LinkedIn. Maybe you write a blog post about your experiences transitioning from accounting firm A to accounting firm B and like what you learned along the way or whatever the thing might be. And then you post on LinkedIn at the point where you feel comfortable, sharing it to your professional network saying, hey, I switched from accounting firm A to accounting firm B. Here are a few things I've learned. I've written them up in a blog post, link down below, or something like that. You're sharing it yourself, so people will stumble upon your website. But then method number 2 of people discovering you is that other people will share your stuff if it's good. If your stuff is good and it is useful to people, then people will just have an intrinsic need to share stuff because it gives them social status points. And there've actually been plenty of cases where someone on my team has stumbled upon a random blog post written by a random person that we've never heard of because it was relevant to a challenge we were facing in our business in the moment. And then they'll share it within the team in Slack, and then me or Angus or someone else on the team will read the blog post, we'll look at the about page of the person who wrote it, we'll see that, oh, this person does freelance work, let's hire them for a freelance consulting arrangement. And actually a lot of the people we've worked with over the years, we have found because they've had personal brands and personal websites with an easy way to contact them and hire them for a freelance engagement. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But the thing that comes to mind is like, what can I possibly create that would be useful? Like, I mean, I'm just a junior mid-level employee at like a boring ass accounting firm. Like, what kind of content would be even vaguely interesting for other people that other people might care about? All right, that is a good question. So at level 1 and level 2, your website was mostly about you, helping people get to know you better so that you could stand out for jobs and so you could get comfortable with self-expression. But at level 3, you really want to focus on how can I be useful to other people? How can I show my work? So for example, Harry, you could write some sort of educational thing sharing lessons you've learned on your accounting journey. You've been in the workplace for a few years now. There's probably stuff that you know now that someone 3 years younger than you or 3 years junior than you in the same industry would find interesting or useful. But that's like really boring accounting stuff. Like, why would people care? Harry, you are not trying to get millions of people to like your stuff. You are not trying to go viral. You are not trying to appeal to the masses. You are trying to appeal to the small number of people who are a few steps behind you on the journey that you've just taken. So if you imagine, what do you wish you'd known 3 years ago? What do you wish you'd known 5 years ago? Back when you were at university, what are the things you wish you'd known about the workplace? Those are going to be relevant to a small group of people, but they're going to be very relevant to that small group of people. I probably wouldn't do an article around like, I don't know, 5 generic productivity tips, because that's kind of generic. But if you did an article on 5 ways to stand out when applying for a job at a Big 4 accounting firm, having applied to plenty of those yourself, Harry, and having landed one of those jobs, that would probably be quite useful and somewhat unique. It doesn't need to be unique. There are no unique messages, but there are always unique messengers. And your way of explaining the stuff that you know, something that Derek Sivers says is what's obvious to you and what's boring to you can be absolutely amazing to others. That's the kind of thing we want to tap into when it comes to figuring out what kind of content to share online. Oh man, okay, so I can see why this would be useful to do. It just seems kind of hard, man. Like, it feels like it just feels like a lot of effort. Do I really want to go through the effort? All right, Harry, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a minute here. Everything in life is hard, right? Let's say you build a personal brand by sharing blog posts once a month about your experience in accounting. That's gonna be hard. You're gonna have to spend like a weekend once a month or something just doing some writing, and you'll find that writing is hard and you'll have to put it out there online. That is hard. But you know what else is hard? It's hard when you get fired because AI has taken over your job. It's hard when you don't get promoted to partner at your law firm because actually everyone else has a personal brand and they're able to land clients, which is where the value of a partner is at. And all you can do, because you're invisible on the internet, all you can do is just do people's accounts. AI obviously can do people's accounts. There's tons and tons of juniors. There's loads of people like in different countries being okay with being paid $5 an hour to just do someone's bookkeeping or just do someone's accounts. The value in you as a human is in the fact that you can land other clients and you can build personal relationships. It's also hard to be in the position where you're not that. Like, everything is hard. You just have to choose your flavor of hard. Do you want to put in the work now to build your personal brand, to future-proof yourself and your career in an industry that's absolutely going to be dominated by AI? Or do you want the hard to come a few years down the line when you have a family and a mortgage and kids, and now you're laid off because AI's taken over your job and you haven't had a personal brand to try and protect you from that revolution? Okay, fine, I get it. Calm down. There's no need to keep on going on about this. I get it. Everything is hard, and I can go through the hard of building my own personal website and my personal brand now, or I can wait for myself to get disrupted and cross my fingers and hope for the best. I like to take things into my own hands. I'd like to have a little bit more control than I actually do. So okay, cool. Let's say I'm now sold on why I should have a website. Where do I get started? I've never built a website before. I don't know anything about this. I don't consider myself particularly technical. Like, what am I gonna do? Wonderful. Let's talk about how to build a website. Before we actually go there is just one little piece of verbiage or like semantics I would like to just comment on, which is that, Harry, you said, I don't consider myself particularly technical. Firstly, you don't need to be technical to build a website, but I'm curious, what do you mean by I don't consider myself particularly technical? Well, I've never really learned to code, and I'm not a very tech savvy sort of person. Harry, this is holding you back. You telling yourself the story, because it's just a story, that you're not a technical person is 100% holding you back, and is going to continue to hold you back, especially in the AI revolution, where the people that are going to keep their jobs and the people that are going to thrive are the people that know how to use AI to improve their workflow. And often those people, if they have a story that they're not particularly technical, there's going to be all of these emotional barriers and internal barriers to actually taking the steps to learn how to use AI and to learn how to use these technical tools. I think it would be very valuable for you to consider changing the story that you are telling yourself, which is that you're not a technical person, and embrace the fact that you're not a technical person yet, but you can learn. You can learn how to build a website. You can learn the basics of how to code. You can learn the basics of how to make an AI agent. How do you do it? By watching YouTube videos. People have made tutorials about all of this stuff. You can do it, you can figure it out. You can become a technical person, even if you don't feel you are that already yet. Okay, fine, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. I'm sold. I'm gonna make a website. Okay, so how do I actually go about this? Like, I've seen there's all these different options out there. There's like Hostinger, there's Squarespace, there's Wix, there's Webflow, there's Framer, there's Tom, Dick, Harry AI, there's Notion. People building websites on Notion these days. which one should I choose? Okay, so this is where things can get complicated because you're right, there are all these different choices on how to start a website. And to be honest, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which specific tool or which specific platform you use, but I can share my personal recommendation for you, if that's okay. How does that sound? Yeah, sure. I want to hear your personal recommendation. I want to hear what you would do if you were in my shoes. And to be honest, if I want to look around, I can just search on YouTube. I can find some tutorials. People have made loads of tutorials on how to build a website using all of these different platforms. Fantastic. So I'm going to give you my own personal recommendation, and I have two. The first one is if I was speaking to my completely broke teenage self and I wanted a website, but I was not allowed to spend a penny on it. It had to be 100% free. This is actually the position I was in when I tried to build a website as a teenager. In that case, if that's the case that you're in, which Harry, I know you're not, but in case there's people watching this video who are in that position where you literally physically cannot spend the money or cannot afford to spend the money, then my favorite free option is a website called card.co. And there's loads of tutorials and stuff, and also you can figure it out on how to build a website using Card. But Harry, given that you are not a broke 13-year-old, and you do have a job that's paying you money, and you are sold on the fact that having a website is an investment in your professional life, I would 100% recommend Hostinger, who are incidentally sponsoring this video, but I would recommend them anyway, and they're very user-friendly and they're also very affordable. Hostinger, yeah, I've heard that they sponsor a lot of YouTubers. I know they're sponsoring this video, but would you actually use Hostinger if they weren't sponsoring this video? Funny story, I actually am using Hostinger to host 3 of my websites, aliabdal.com, ptya.com for my YouTuber Academy, and productivitylab.com. And we could choose from any website host anywhere in the world, and pretty much any website hosting company would be down to sponsor our videos as well. But my team did an in-depth analysis of all of them, and we landed on Hostinger. In fairness, it was a cross between Hostinger and WP Engine, and they both offered basically the same service, but WP Engine was more expensive and Hostinger was cheaper, so we went with the cheaper option, and we've been with them for 2 years and we love it. And I even went out for lunch with some of their team back when I was in London, and they were super nice, super friendly, they knew their stuff. So what exactly is Hostinger and how does it work? That is a great question. So Hostinger actually offers 2 main options for building a website. You can build a WordPress website and you can host it on Hostinger, or you can use Hostinger's website builder. Okay, so what's the difference between these 2 options? Okay, so these are 2 sort of different things. So WordPress is an open source platform that powers around 43% of the internet. And so Hostinger is a WordPress host. So on WordPress, WordPress is what we use. It's more customizable. There's like hundreds of thousands of templates that people have made. There's hundreds of thousands of plugins that you can add to your site for pretty much any functionality you want. And you can literally modify anything about it, even the code, if you're comfortable with that level of control. Now, the trade-off here is that there is a little bit of a learning curve. Yes, it's very easy to install WordPress, but then customizing WordPress, you got to pick a theme, install some plugins, maybe tweak some settings, keep it roughly up to date, which Hostinger does for you automatically anyway. Okay, so if I'm a beginner, then this website builder sounds like it's the better option. Like, why would someone choose WordPress hosting instead? So if your goal is to have a professional looking website with the least amount of hassle and friction and effort that is humanly possible, then the website builder is the way to go. This is great if you don't care about how websites work, you don't really want to learn, you just want something out of the box. But the WordPress hosting option is better if you are willing to invest a little bit of time in learning how websites work. And honestly, I personally think that learning to use WordPress is an incredibly useful skill to have. All right, but that does sound like a lot of effort. It sounds like, I think I maybe want to stick with the website builder instead. Yeah, honestly, that's totally fair. I can totally understand how as a complete beginner who's never touched a website before in your life, you want to use the website builder to get your feet wet, to get started. Also, in fairness, with WordPress back in the day, it used to be kind of annoying setting up a WordPress installation, but with Hostinger's business plan, it comes with unlimited SSL certificates for security, WordPress AI tools that help you create content, up to 5 times better performance compared to basic plan, and a free content delivery network that makes your site load quickly worldwide. The setup process for this is actually pretty straightforward. You choose a domain name, you install WordPress with 1 click, and then you can use the AI builder or choose from thousands of WordPress themes. The other thing is that they've got the AI content creator tool, which helps you generate ideas. And so if you're particularly struggling with figuring out what you actually write about, you can use the tool to help give you a few ideas. Plus, they've got really good 24/7 customer support and tons of tutorials. So even if WordPress is a little bit more tricky to deal with, you're in good hands if you host it with Hostinger, which is exactly what me and my team do. Okay, nice. That sounds reasonable. Can you show me how this works? Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So let's go into the screen now, and I'm just going to give you a little quick walkthrough of how you could build a website using the Hostinger website builder. All right, so I'm going to go over to Hostinger, and I am going to use the website builder. And I'm going to pick the business website builder because why not? And you know what? I'm going to sign up for 4 years because I'm committed to this. And then I'm just going to go through the sign up process.
A few moments later.
And I'm going to start by using the AI website builder. So my brand name I'm going to say is my name, which is Harry Trotter. Describe your project or brand in a few sentences. Create a website. Okay, now what do I want? I want pages and navigation. I don't even really need a home page, but let's see. Welcome to Harry Trotter Accounting. Okay, so this is what the AI has come up with. And if I wanted to, I could add a blog page where I can now write stuff like blog posts and things, and then I can get a domain and connect my domain. So because I get a free domain as part of this hosting a plan, I can get the domain name Harry Trotter. Oh, harrytrotter.com is available. I'm surprised that's available. Registering. And within a few minutes, using the AI features of the website builder, we have whipped up a very, very basic page. The thing with the website is that it is a little bit of a blank slate. If you wanted way more templates and way more customization, I would go for the WordPress option rather than the website builder option. But the website builder option, if you're a beginner, is a good place to get started. And you can see, you can just click around, you can add sections, you can like, you know what, I'm gonna add a section that has, I don't know, like my CV. Perfect. Fantastic. I don't need this section that has my project. Let's just delete the whole thing. Client feedback, you know, feedback, whatever. Yep, that's fine. You can see that you can start to, with just a few minor kind of changes. Let's get rid of that image. Don't really need that. Let's move that up there. Like you can see, it's actually starting to look pretty reasonable. The thing that I would recommend, Harry, is that you start off with one page at a time. I think one thing that overwhelms people with websites is that, especially if you use like an AI builder or something and they create these multiple pages for you, there's a home page, an about page, services, contact, blog, you're like, ah, crap. But like just starting with one page and getting that looking with the content and like the style that you want. And I would say probably keep it simple rather than trying to overcomplicate it. That is where you get started, and then you can always add more and more pages further down the line. All right, that all sounds very reasonable. So how do I get started? Fantastic. So if you'd like to sign up to Hosting as Business Plan, there is a coupon code and a link in the video description if you want to check it out. And if you would like some tips on how to actually make this happen, now you've set yourself the intention of starting a website, but how to actually follow through with it, then check out this video over here where I talk about 5 super easy to implement evidence-based strategies that you can use to achieve any goal, including the goal of building a website. So thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.